What's up, guys? Alex here again, and today we're going to talk about the perfect sub bass. Okay, so before I get started, I want to make it perfectly clear I do not claim to have created the perfect sub bass. I think it would be a sad day if I were to create the perfect sub bass, because it's one of those things where the journey is more pleasurable, I think, than the destination. And I quite enjoy trying to chase the perfect sub bass. And there's just some considerations that we'll talk about today when you're looking at making one. Firstly, the sub bass has to sound good on no matter what speaker the listener is listening to, whether it's their cell phone, their car, or even at a festival. So you want to cover all those grounds. And that basically just means you want the higher frequencies to be heard, because that's what you'll hear on a cell phone, but they shouldn't conflict with the rest of your song. And you want the super low frequencies that you would basically only hear at a festival or at a concert stage with those giant subwoofers and crossovers there. And so basically everything I'm going to show you today is about how to achieve that or try to get close to it. First of all, you'll notice that I have two different sub basses here. Okay. And this one, the pink one, is created using Serum. And I'm not expecting you to have Serum. This is just what I've used to do it. And basically inside Serum, and you can do this in I guess really any synth that you have, is I crank up the amount of voices, and on both oscillators I choose a real screwed up wave here just to get those upper harmonics, and I go up one octave and make a big sine wave there. And that's basically it. I detune them a little tiny bit, not too much, because I don't want to take up too much frequency space, and I do that basically twice. You can see here lots of voices, some crazy wave there, sub turned on, up an octave, and a little bit of noise. Okay, let's have a listen to that. Okay, nothing fancy really. You'll notice I have some distortion on both tracks. And the reason is because distortion will take a fairly simple sound that's really low and add a bunch of crazy harmonics up above it. If you look at the spectrum analyzer here while I play it, you see you get all those choppy waves up at the top. And that's kind of what's going to bring the sub into the upper frequencies where you'll be able to hear it on a cell phone or a crappy Bluetooth mono speaker that a lot of people use to listen to music these days. You'll also notice that I'm not using a filter so much or an EQ as I am this multi-band effects 3. And the reason I'm doing that is because if you look at these two values, 120 and 1.02 kilohertz, it's the exact same on both channels. And the reason I do that is because this filter or this EQ has the crossover points figured out. And so if I put this exact thing same setting on both channels, then I can tell it that this track I want to be my mid frequencies and that one my low, simply by turning up this or turning up that. Okay, and that's pretty important. Of course, with sub bass you're going to need a peak limiter. That kind of goes without saying. It's a low frequencies are extremely powerful and they can be overbearing. So you need a peak limiter just to keep it from clipping your master. I'll say this though, you cannot clip the channels inside of Bitwig. They'll go red to tell you that they're going to clip the master, but the channels themselves don't clip. They scale themselves up into, I think, 32-bit float to compensate for any loud volume, and so you have zero chance of ever clipping these channels. You can only clip the master, and that's really cool inside of Bitwig. So you don't get two sources of clipping, you just get the one. But that being said, you still need peak limiters because your master will clip. Okay, inside here I just used regular polysynth, and you'll see I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 channels, and all of these are playing this exact same thing. And I've organized it so that the top track is the most high pitched my sub bass will get, and the lowest is really low. You probably won't even hear this if I play it because it is so low. Well, I can hear it in my headphones and it's pretty jarring, but that would be super dope at a festival. Like this would go only into the sub and it would just crank, okay? And then if you listen to the very top one, it just has a little bit of air, a little bit of noise, and I set the volume really low just to get that little bit of upper harmonics into the speakers that aren't festival speakers. Okay, so all together, all these tracks, all playing the same thing, sounds something like this. So by no means is that a perfect sub bass. That's kind of it. This might even be a little bit too rich for any song. Maybe trap music or something like that would get a use out of that, but this has got a ton of stuff happening inside it, and it's taking up a huge amount of the frequency spectrum, and so you're going to get a lot of conflict inside that. But if in the effort of creating a bass that goes from the low portions all the way to the high, this is done pretty good. So you'll notice that I've grouped these. This is my polysynth, and this is my Serum based one, and I've even grouped that into a group called sub. And that's because now, if I wanted to add an EQ on the overall master of the sub bass, I could simply do that. Just put an EQ 5 in there, and I could take away however much high end or whatever was conflicting with the rest of my song. So if I turn this into high shelf, and let's bring it down. And so that affects everything that's inside the group. And of course, you can EQ to that to taste. Now, inside the polysynth, again, a number of voices, not just one. Actually, your lowest track, you might just want one. This is actually an FM4. And I believe I got this from a preset. Let me check. Yeah, sub love sine. And it's basically just a sine wave. And I've put a DJ EQ after it because, again, it's got its crossover frequencies figured out, and you just put that basically on everything and turn up the ones that you want that correspond to whether you want high, mid, or low frequencies. But this one, I'm going to rename that to FM4. This is just basically a sine wave for your absolute lowest frequency, the one that you're expecting to play at a festival or concert club. You just want a basic sine wave, a really stupid low sound, okay? And for all the rest, it's basically what I did in Serum, but using the polysynth. Plenty of voices, slightly detuned, or in this case, unison. And you just kind of have to fidget around. A little bit of noise is good. Yeah, figure out the shapes. In general, you want some pretty long shapes. And that's because those are longer wavelengths, and that therefore creates lower frequencies. But a saw wave is going to have a lot of rich upper harmonics, and you're going to want that just to get it into the upper side of the spectrum. And basically the same here. If I play this, watch the spectrum analyzer. Okay, lots of choppiness in the top there, and that's kind of what I want. And you'll also see that I only have the mids up on this guy, but it's still playing. Let me solo this. It's still playing a little bit in the low and a little bit in the high, but for the most part, it's just the middle frequencies. And you want that. You wouldn't want it so it's a hard cutoff here and then your mids and a hard cutoff there. You can, it'd be hard to achieve it anyway, but doing that creates some weird consequences. Actually, as far as physics is concerned, it kind of creates these off-color harmonics way lower and way higher that you might not be able to see directly, but they will conflict with stuff. So you want to choose an EQ that has all that figured out, and simply put, there's a DJ EQ, you can do the multi-band effects, and they're going to have all that figured out. So you can set the values down here, and then just take this option click and drag it onto all the tracks, and then turn up the ones the either low, mid, or high corresponding to where you place it. Okay, and then again, in general, this isn't set in stone, but in general, just one note at a time. Okay, just because chords and stuff like that, they're not gonna sound, when you get so low, your ear can't distinguish between chords when there's frequencies that low. Okay, especially this guy here. If this was a chord, it would sound so crappy, and you wouldn't want that kind of weird that weird bubbling effect that you get. You can try it out if you like, but you know, experiment, do your thing. The other thing that I like to tell you is, if you hit option B here to bring up the browser, is grab these once you create one and drag it in there and name it something. So I've named mine sub 2, AVA, or that's my name, Alex Vaan, sub bass 3, and this is just a couple of other ones that I've created. And that way, every time I have a song that I need sub bass, I can just grab them, throw them in here. I have this exact setup, and then I can go in and tweak them around, change the notes. I can mute them and listen to which ones I actually want, and then you're basically good with that. Okay, it's all about the workflow. For example, if I go into here, that's basically what I did with this song that we're creating together in one of the other videos that I have. And we're at the stage now where we need sub bass put into here. We need some kind of bass, and this might be a little bit too heavy. I only grabbed the sub. I didn't take the one that has Serum in it because I think it's too much as it is. So let's just have a listen here. Okay, so if I unplug my laptop, my headphones from my laptop, and then when I plug it into my little studio monitors and try various different sound sources, it doesn't sound too bad, but I think it's just taking up a little too much frequency range, especially because this song is far from over. See, I have only a very few tracks here when usually I have like 50, and I know I'm going to add a whole bunch more stuff, and so that might be a little bit sonically rich for the taste of this song. But for now, I'll just close it up, and I'll go with that, and then I'll adjust it as needed. And that's simple. You can just open your browser. If you have it saved, you go to your clips, you type in what you saved it as, and you can just drag it in like this. Okay, and look, there's the Serum one, except with the wrong notes, because I saved the notes and that was dumb. Okay, all right guys, that's basically it. I hope if you create the best sub bass you've ever heard, that you definitely leave it in the comment section. I totally want to hear it. Everybody wants to hear it. No one's ever found the perfect sub bass. I think it changes per song anyway, but let's hear what you guys come up with, and give me your comments or questions. Definitely get in contact with me if you have anything to say. You can email me, you can visit my website, and please do subscribe. At this point, I think you should give it up for the guy and just subscribe to his channel. And I'm talking about myself in the third person. Okay, all right guys, ciao.